Hey there, welcome to the Movie Review Mom YouTube channel. If this is the very first time you found this, yay, you're here. I'm so glad. I've been waiting for you. And if you're a returning subscriber, yay, thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. So as you know, if you're a returning subscriber, my goal is to give you the heads up on filmmaking quality and content so that you can make the best decision as to whether or not you want to spend time or money or both watching a specific film. So the specific film I'm reviewing today is called My Love Affair with Marriage. This coming of age animation for adults opens in New York City on October 6th and Los Angeles on October 13th. Additional cities will follow. So the film is rated R and is an hour and 47 minutes. My overall movie review mom grade is a B plus, but with parental warnings. Because it's an animation, I'll give you some tips for parents here in just a few minutes. But first, I'm going to give you an overview in a nutshell, and then I'll point out things I really liked, things I didn't like, tips for parents, themes worth talking about, interesting lines, and recommendations for other films that are sort of similar that I think you might also enjoy if you like this one. All right, you ready? In a nutshell, this is an animated feature film directed, animated, and written by Trina Boice. Now, I apologize if I mispronounce her name, and I probably did. She was born in Latvia. So the HuffPost actually called this movie, quote, one of the best female-resistant films of the year, end quote. It premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival in 2022, and then it went on to win over 20 awards at various film festivals worldwide. The story is about a 23-year-old single woman trying to find love in this confusing world in Eastern Europe. It's told from a woman's perspective and celebrates her journey toward independence and liberation. Now, does that sound like a feminist film? Well, the description definitely does, but in reality, I thought that the film really was about a woman just trying to find true love. Now, there is some male bashing. I'll talk about that when I get to the things that I didn't like. But first, the list of things I really did like. First, the voice talents include Matthew Modine, Dagmara Dominitsk, Michelle Pock, Cameron Monaghan, and Stephen Lang. And I didn't even recognize his voice. You know, he's got that deep voice from Avatar, you know, the bad guy in both Avatars. Anyway, and it didn't sound familiar to me, even though I was trying to hear which actor was going to play that particular role. Anyway, nice cast. They all did a very good job. The hand-drawn animation includes some photography and three-dimensional sets. And I thought it was really entertaining and very clever. In fact, there are some extremely clever visual metaphors that perfectly illustrate the complex transition from girlhood to womanhood. Many times they made me laugh out loud, and many times I just thought, wow, what a clever way to show that concept. We get to observe scientific explanations to help us better understand thoughts and feelings and how they affect our physical body and vice versa. And for those of you who have never studied biology, you may be especially intrigued. And again, I thought it was really interesting how they chose to illustrate certain biological concepts. What's surprising is the large collection of musical numbers throughout the entire movie. They were created by Christian Sensini, and the song I liked the very best was the one at the end of the film. Now, I'm not saying that sarcastically to mean that I liked that the movie was ending. I really did enjoy that song the best. Some of the music had a little bit of dissonance, and I think that that was early on to demonstrate these conflicting feelings that this young woman was having and trying to understand how she fit into the world as a woman. And so I thought that was also really well done. Sometimes the music wasn't as pleasant, though, because of that. The insights are often brutal and true at the same time. We also get to see a lot of character growth in the main character. Now, with that praise, there were a few things that I didn't like or thought could have been done differently. So, the problem with most feminist films is they usually portray men as dumb, useless, and toxic. And that is the case in this movie. I'm trying to remember if there was any male figure that was considered good. And they all had issues and problems, and they all lied and really abused the relationship that they had with this one woman, sometimes physically, sometimes emotionally, almost always emotionally. And I am a mother of 4 sons, and my life is made richer by having these young men, the young sons that I have, and my husband, of course, having them in my life. And so it always drives me nuts when they just rip on the men and act like they are just useless idiots. Of course, some of those exist, but some of them are wonderful men. And so that's one of my biggest irks about feminist movies. However, there are a lot of really good points that they make that, as a woman, I agree with. Well, you'll kind of have to see the movie. I don't want to give you a whole lot of spoilers, but how women are treated and what the inequalities are and always have been. Anyway, the movie is long, yet it ended suddenly and unexpectedly. I was really getting into it. At the very beginning of the movie, I was like, oh, okay, this is different. And it's much more artsy fartsy. The director, writer, and animator is an artist. And so it's going to feel very different from the typical Hollywood American blockbuster movies. But there's a lot to be learned from this film. A large portion of the movie was devoted to sexuality, and that definitely makes this movie not appropriate for children. And so that brings me into tips for parents. This is an animation for adults. I think kids are going to be bored because it's about young womanhood and trying to mature into a grown woman and an adult and finding your place in the world as a woman and, that kind of thing. But the content really isn't appropriate for children anyway. A boy and a girl fist fight each other in school. There's talk of a girl's first period and losing her virginity. There's one F-bomb that I could count. Otherwise, I don't remember hearing any other profanity, which was interesting. Lots of talk and portrayal of intimate relations, sexual encounters, and that kind of thing. So some of the themes that are illustrated very well are marriage and that rocky road that marriage can be sometimes, that push and pull of marriage that sometimes happens when there are disagreements or certain expectations, history, biology, gender norms, domestic violence, toxic relationships, self-respect, inner rebellion, communism, soulmates, life and death, and validation from others. And all of those were really interesting topics and done very well. This might be an interesting movie to watch with a mother and her older teenage daughter, perhaps, to help navigate that transition. But it's not family viewing for all ages, for sure. So whenever I watch movies, I write notes, and specifically I write down funny lines or interesting lines. And as I went back and was reading my notes, I didn't write down any funny lines, even though there are some amusing moments and insightful wisdom said in amusing ways. But I wrote down a lot of those interesting lines, and you can see them all on my written review, moviereviewmom.com. So one thing that Zelma, the main character, our female protagonist, says many times is, love would make me complete. And she grows up asking boys, do you like me now? Do you like me now? She even asks that of girls because she can tell that there's something different about her. She can't quite put her finger on it in the beginning. And even in the end, the movie ends and she's still opening new doors of opportunity and exploration, trying to figure out really who she is. One funny line, actually, that I thought was interesting was she's narrating this story about herself. And so she talks about this instance where she is talking to these boys and she says, I lied like a good woman. I just thought, oh, that's not good. Um, there's another interesting line where she says there's no sense of power in waiting. And she's talking about this husband that she has who just walks out on her and she's waiting and wondering, is that it? Is he ever coming back? Or am I overreacting? And of course, he's going to be back. And she feels this vulnerability and this sense of loss of power, more and more power that she loses the more and more that she waits. And then another point where she becomes this young woman and recognizes that she has a cute body and is pretty. She says, for self-protection, I had to look cold and unavailable, in the hallway while guys were looking at her and gawking at her, or saying things to her or something like that. And then she has another husband. And at one point he says, please don't fall asleep. Sleep will separate us. And she does such a great job capturing the passion of new young love and a new young marriage and how you just can't get enough of each other. And I love those sweet, tender moments and the illustrations, her animation that she chose to show that feeling. And I thought she just did a really great job. All right, so let me give you some recommendations for some other films that are sort of similar. The first one I thought of is the recent feminist movie out called Barbie. Now, Barbie is also trying to explore, where does she fit into this world? How does she embrace her femininity? But is she a doll? Is she a human? How does Ken fit into her world? Now, you'll have to see my movie review on Barbie simply because I was really torn and conflicted. I grew up playing with Barbie. I loved Barbie, but this movie hits hard on the male bashing. Ken is just discarded as nothing, and he kind of tries to figure out, how does he get Barbie back? And anyway, I don't want to give you the whole story. You've probably seen it. But anyway, it has some definitely strong and sometimes vicious undertones that are feminist, anti-male, and really the message of the movie is Barbie does not need Ken or any man. And that's true. You can be a happy, fulfilled, productive woman without being married, without having a boyfriend. But our life is made richer by having these male relationships. Anyway, so you have to listen to that. So I thought of that movie because in a different way, this movie was hitting on some of those same touch points. And then another movie is a coming of age film set in medieval times called Catherine Called Birdie. And it's got a very fun, snarky young woman who is, again, also discovering some of these lessons. Now she's engaged, but she doesn't get married and go through all of the steps that happen in this particular movie. But I really got a kick out of that one. And then another one with an excellent performance by Saoirse Ronan is called Lady Bird. And again, a young, defiant, inner rebellious woman, sometimes outer rebellious as well. All of these movies, again, is an exploration of who you are as a woman and how do you fit in the world and that kind of thing. So I liked all of those for very similar reasons. And then they also have some similar issues with men. Anyway, let me know what you think of those types of movies, and definitely let me know after you watch this movie what you thought of it. Comment down below. I always respond to every single comment, and I love hearing what you have to say. And when you get a minute, join me over on Facebook in the Facebook group called Movie Review Mom, where we share lots of funny movie themes and memes and games and stuff. And you can follow me on Instagram as Movie Review Mom and as my real name, my author name, Trina Boice, spelled B-O-I-C-E. That's it for today. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.